oh, someone is trying to smooth something out, or someone is playing with like
They're
slime.
cutting soap. Have you seen the soap cutting?
Yes, soap cutting is huge.
Yes.
And again, there is no content to it. It is just trying to stimulate you on some sort of like lizard brain
It feels
level.
vaguely narcotic.
Absolutely.
You reach this magic number that is supposed to get people addicted to TikTok. Are you addicted to TikTok?
Kevin, I'm surprised and frankly delighted to tell you.
Well, Casey, aside from all the drama in AI and self-driving cars this week, we also had some news about TikTok.
Mm-hmm. One of the other most powerful AI forces on Earth.
No, truly.
Yes.
I unironically believe that.
Yeah, that was not a joke.
Yes. So this week, we learned about some documents that came to light as part of a lawsuit that is moving through the courts right now. As people will remember, the federal government is still trying to force ByteDance to sell TikTok. But last week, 13 states and the District of Columbia sued TikTok, accusing the company of creating an intentionally addictive app that harmed children.
And Kevin, and this is my favorite part of this story, is that Kentucky Public Radio got a hold of these court documents, and they had many redactions. You know, often in these cases, the most interesting sort of facts and figures will just be redacted for who knows what reason. But the geniuses over at Kentucky Public Radio just copy and pasted everything in the document. And when they pasted it, everything was totally visible.
This keeps happening. I feel like every year or two we get a story about some failed redaction. Like, is it that hard to redact a document?
I'll say this. I hope it always remains this hard to redact a document because I read stuff like this, Kevin, and I'm in heaven.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they got a hold of these documents. They copied and pasted. They figured out what was behind sort of the black boxes in the redacted materials. And it was pretty juicy. These documents included details like TikTok's knowledge of a high number of underage kids who were stripping for adults on the platform. The adults were paying them in digital gifts. These documents also claimed that TikTok had adjusted its algorithm to prioritize people they deemed beautiful. And then there was this stat that I know you honed in on, which was that these documents said, based on internal conversations, that TikTok had figured out exactly how many videos it needed to show someone in order to get them hooked on the platform. And that number is 260.
260 is what it takes to get someone addicted. You know, it reminds me, this is sort of ancient, but do you remember the commercial in the 80s where they would say, like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
Yes.
To me, this is the sort of 2020's equivalent. How many TikToks do you have to watch until you can't look away ever again?
Yes. So this is, according to the company's own research, this is about the tipping point where people start to develop a habit or an addiction of going back to the platform, and they sort of become sticky in the parlance of social media apps.
In the disgusting parlance of social media apps, it becomes sticky.
Yes. So, Casey, when we heard about this magic number of 260 TikTok videos, you had what I thought was an insane idea. Tell us about it.
Well, Kevin, I thought if 260 videos is all it takes, maybe I should watch 260 TikToks, and here's why. I am an infrequent user of TikTok. I would say once a week, once every 2 weeks, I'll check in, I'll watch a few videos, and I would say I generally enjoy my experience, but not to the point that I come back every day. And so I've always wondered what I'm missing, because I know so many folks that can't even have TikTok on their phone because it holds such a power over them, and they feel like the algorithm gets to know them so quickly and so intimately that it can only be explained by magic. So I thought, if I've not been able to have this experience just sort of normally using TikTok, what if I tried to consume 260 TikToks as quickly as I possibly could and just saw what would happen after that?
Not all heroes wear capes. Okay, so Casey, you watched 260 TikTok videos last night.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So I did create a new account. So I started fresh. I didn't just reset my algorithm, although that is something that you can do in TikTok. And I decided a couple of things. One is I was not going to follow anyone, like no friends, but also no influencers.
No enemies.
No enemies. And I also was not going to do any searches, right? A lot of the ways that TikTok will get to know you is if you do a search. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I want to get the sort of broadest, most mainstreamy experience of TikTok that I can, so that I can develop a better sense of how does it sort of walk me down this funnel toward my eventual interest. Whereas if I just followed 10 friends and did like 3 searches for my favorite subjects, like I probably could have gone there faster. And so do you know the very first thing that TikTok showed me, Kevin?
What's that?
It showed me a 19-year-old boy flirting with an 18-year-old girl trying to get her phone number. And when I tell you I could not have been any less interested in this content, it was aggressively straight.
Yes.
And it was very young. And it had nothing to do with me, and it was not my business. And so over the next several hours, this total process, I did about 2.5 hours last night, and I did another 30 minutes this morning. And if I could, I would like to share, maybe the first 9 or 10 things that TikTok showed me. Again, the assumption is it knows basically nothing about me.
Yes.
And I do think there is something quite revealing about an algorithm that knows nothing, throwing spaghetti at you, seeing what will stick, and then just picking up the spaghetti afterwards and saying, well, what is it, that it thought was interesting. So here's what it showed me. Second video, a disturbing 911 call, like a very upsetting sort of domestic violence situation. Skip. 3, 2 people doing trivia on a diving board, and like the person who loses has to jump off the diving board. Okay, fine. 4, just free-booted clip of Audition for America's Got Talent. 5, vegetable mukbang. So just a guy who had like rows and rows of beautiful multicolored vegetables in front of them who was just eating them. 6, a comedy skit, but it was like running on top of a Minecraft video. So one of my key takeaways after my first 6 or 7 TikTok videos was that it does actually assume that you're quite young, right? That's why it started out by showing me teenagers. And as I would go through this process, I found that over and over again, instead of just showing me a video, it would show me a video that had been chopped in half. And on top was whatever the sort of core content was. And below would be someone is playing Subway Surfers.
Yes.
Someone is playing Minecraft. Or someone is doing those sort of oddly satisfying things.
This
like
is a growth hack.
I'm combing through a rug or whatever.
Yes.
And it's literally people trying to hypnotize you, right? It's like if you just see someone is trying to smooth something out, or someone is playing with like
They're
slime.
cutting soap. Have you seen the soap cutting?
Yes. Soap cutting is huge.
Yes.
And again, there is no content to it. It is just trying to stimulate you on some sort of like lizard brain
It feels
level.
vaguely narcotic.
Absolutely.
It is like, yes.
It is just purely a drug. Video number 7, an ad. Video number 8, a dad who was speaking in Spanish and dancing. I think it was very cute.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you doing anything other than just swiping from one video to the next? Are you liking anything? Are you saving anything? Are you sharing anything? Because all that gets interpreted by the algorithm as like a signal to keep showing you more of that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So for the first 25 or so videos, I did not like anything, but because I truly didn't like anything. Like nothing was really doing it for me. But my intention was always like, yes, when I see something I like, I'm going to try to reward the algorithm, give it a like, and I will maybe get more like that. So the process goes on, and I'm just struck by the absolute weirdness and disconnection of everything in the feed. At first, truly nothing has any relation to anything else, and it sort of feels like you've put your brain into like a Vitamix, where it's like, swipe, here is a clip from Friends, swipe, kids complaining about school, swipe, Mickey Mouse has a gun and he's in a video game, right? Those are 3 videos that I saw in a row, and the effect of it is just like disorienting, right?
I've had this experience when you like go onto YouTube, but you're not logged in, and basically a new account, and it sort of is just showing you sort of a random assortment of things that are popular on YouTube. It does feel very much like they're just firing in a bunch of different directions, hoping that something will stick, and then it can sort of zoom in on that thing.
Yes, absolutely. Now I will add that in the first 30 or so videos, I saw 2 things that I thought were like actually disturbing and bad.
What were
things
they?
that should never have been shown to me.
Was it a clip from the All In podcast?
Yeah, no. Fortunately, it didn't get that bad.
Okay.
But one, there was a clip of a grate in like a busy city, and there was air blowing up from the grate. And the TikTok was just women walking over the grate and their skirts blowing up.
That seems
horrible.
bad.
That's horrible. That was in the first 20 videos that I saw.
Wow.
Was this video, okay? I guess if you like that video, it says a lot about you, right? But it's like bad. The second one, and I do not even know if we are will want to include this on our podcast because I can't even believe that I'm saying that I saw this, but it is true. It was an AI voice of someone telling an erotic story which involved incest, and it was shown over a video of someone making soap.
Wow.
Like, what?
This is dark stuff.
This is dark stuff.
Now, at what point did you start to wonder if the algorithm had started to pick up on your clues that you were giving it?
Well, so I was desperate to find out this question because I am gay, and I wondered when I was going to see the first gay content, like when it was actually just going to show me two gay men who were talking about gay concerns. And it did not happen.
Ever?
No. It never quite got there. At the on this morning,
In 260 videos.
over 260 videos. Now, it did show me queer people. Actually, do you know the first queer person, identifiably queer person that the TikTok algorithm showed me? Are you familiar with the very popular TikTok meme from this year, Very Demure, Very Mindful?
Yes.
The first queer person I saw on TikTok, thanks to the algorithm, was Jules LeBron in a piece of sponsored content, and she was trying to sell me a Lenovo laptop. And that was the queer experience that I got in my romp through the TikTok algorithm. Now, it did eventually show me a couple of queer people. It showed me one of like TikTok about the singer Chapel Roan, who is queer, so I'll count that. And then it showed me a video by Billie Eilish, a queer pop star, and I did like that video. And now Billie Eilish is one of the most famous pop stars in the entire world. I mean, like truly, like on the Mount Rushmore of famous pop stars right now. So it makes a lot of sense to me that TikTok would show me that. Also incredibly popular with teenagers.
Right.
And so I liked one Billie Eilish video, and then that was when the floodgates opened, and it was like, okay, here's a lot of that. But just from like sort of scrolling, we did not get to the gay zone. Now, I did notice the algorithm adapting to me. So something about me was, because again, I was trying to get through a lot of videos in a relatively short amount of time, and TikTok now will often show you 3, 4, 5 minute long videos. I frankly did not have the time for that. The longer I scrolled, the shorter the videos were that I got. And I do feel like the content aged up a little bit. It started showing me a category of content that I call people being weird little freaks. Is like somewhat, these are some real examples. A man dressed as the cat in the hat dancing to Sierra's song Goodies.
Okay.
There was a man in a horse costume playing the Addams Family theme song on an accordion using a toilet lid for percussion.
This is the most important media platform in the world.
Yes. Hours a day, teenagers are staring at this. And this is what it is showing
we
them.
are so screwed.
Yeah. It figured out that I was more likely to like content about animals than other things. So there started to become a lot of dogs doing cute things, cats doing cute things, or other things like that. But there was also just a lot of like, here's a guy going to a store and showing you objects from the store, or like here is a guy telling you a long story.
Can I ask you a question? Like, was any in these 260 videos, were there any that you thought like that is a great video?
I don't know if I saw anything truly great. I definitely saw some animal videos that if I showed them to you, you would laugh, or like you would say that was cute. Like, there was stuff that gave me an emotional response, and I would say particularly as I got to the end of this process, I was seeing stuff that I enjoyed a bit more. But there... this morning, I decided to do something, Kevin, because I'd gotten so frustrated with the algorithm. I thought it is time to give the algorithm a piece of data about me. So do you know what I did?
What'd you do?
I searched the word gay.
Very subtle.
Which, like, in fairness, is an insane search query, right? Because what is TikTok supposed to show me in response? Like, you can show me all sorts of things, but on my like real TikTok account, it just shows me queer creators all the time, and they're doing all sorts of things. They're singing, they're dancing, they're telling jokes, they're telling stories. So I was like, I would like to see a little bit of stuff like that. Do you know the first clip that came up for me when I searched gay on TikTok to train my algorithm?
What was it?
It was a clip from an adult film. Now,
like explicit? Unblurred?
It was from, and I don't know this, I've only read about this, but apparently at the start of some adult films, before the explicit stuff, there will be some sort of story content, that sort of establishes the premise of the scene. And this was sort of in that vein. But I thought if I just sort of said offhanded, oh, TikTok, yeah, I bet if you just search gay, they'll just like show you like porn. People would say like, it sounds like you're being insane. Like, why would you say that? That's being insane. Obviously, they're probably showing you their like most famous queer creator, something like that. No, they literally just showed me porn. So it was like, again, so much of this process for me was like hearing the things that people say about TikTok, assuming that people were sort of exaggerating or being too hard on it, and then having the experience myself and saying like, oh no, like it's actually like that. That was interesting.
An alternative explanation is that the algorithm is actually really, really good, and the reason it show you all the videos of people being weird little freaks is because you are actually a weird little freak.
That's true. I will accept those allegations. I will not fight those allegations.
So, okay, you watched 260 videos. You reached this magic number that is supposed to get people addicted to TikTok. Are you addicted to TikTok?
Kevin, I'm surprised and frankly delighted to tell you I have never been less addicted to TikTok than I have been after going through this experience. Do you remember back when people would smoke cigarettes a lot, and if a parent caught a child smoking, the thing that they would do is they say, you know what? You're going to smoke this whole pack, and I'm going to sit in front of you, and you're going to smoke this whole pack of cigarettes. And the accumulated effect of all that stuff that you're breathing into your lungs, by the end of that, the teenager says, Dad, I'm never going to smoke again. This is how I feel.
It cured your addiction.
After watching hundreds of these TikToks.
So, okay, you are not a TikTok addict. In fact, it seems like you are less likely to become a TikTok power user than you were before this experiment.
I think that's right.
Did this experiment change your attitudes about whether TikTok should be banned in the United States?
I feel so bad saying it, but I think the answer is yes. Like, not ban it, right? Like, my feelings about that still have much more to do with like free speech and like freedom of expression. And I think that a ban raises a lot of questions that the United States approach to this issue. It just makes me super uncomfortable with. You can go back through our archive to hear a much longer discussion about that. But if I were a parent of a teen who had just been given their first smartphone, hopefully not any younger than like 14, it would change the way that I talk with them about what TikTok is, and it would change the way that I would check in with them about what they were seeing, right? Like I would say, you are about to see something that is going to make you feel like your mind is in a blender, and it is going to try to addict you, and here's how it is going to try to addict you. And I might sit with my child and might do some early searches to try to precede that feed with stuff that was good and would give my child a greater chance of going down some positive rabbit holes and seeing less of, some of the more disturbing stuff that I saw there. So if nothing else, like I think it was a good educational exercise for me to go through. And if there is someone in your life, particularly a young person who is spending a lot of time on TikTok, I would encourage that you go through this process yourself, because these algorithms are changing all the time. And I think you do want to have a sense of what is it like this very week if you really want to know what it's going to be showing your kid.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I spent a lot of time on TikTok. I don't recall ever getting done with TikTok and being sort of happy and fulfilled with how I spent the time. Like, there's a vague sense of like shame about it. There's a vague sense that like sometimes it like helps me turn my brain off at the end of a stressful day. It has this sort of like, this sort of narcotic effect on me. And sometimes it's calming, and sometimes I find things that are funny, but rarely do I come away saying like that was the best possible use of my time.
And would you say that you do find that way on YouTube sometimes?
Sometimes. I mean, I also watch a lot of garbage on YouTube, I'll be totally honest, but sometimes I do, I'll watch a lecture, or I'll watch a video that teaches me something, and I do feel like that was actually maybe a good use of my time.
Yeah, sometimes you'll get to one of the end of like those long like YouTube video essays, and you're like, I actually do feel like I learned something. Like that person really took me on a journey and made me feel things in a way that is not dissimilar from how I might feel after like watching a long documentary. So again, I don't want to make too much of that distinction. I think that, YouTube has plenty of problems on its own, and if your kid is using YouTube, you need to have a conversation with them about that too. But there is something that happens when you adopt this sort of algorithm first, vertical video, mostly short form, infinite scroll. You put all of those ingredients into a bag, and what comes out does have this narcotic effect, as you say.
Well, Casey, thank you for exposing your brain to the TikTok algorithm for the sake of journalism. I appreciate you.
And, I will be donating it to science when my life ends.
People will be studying your brain after you die. I feel fairly confident. I don't know why they'll be studying your brain, but there will be research teams looking at it.
Can't wait to hear what y'all find out. Hey, that's the end of this clip. If you liked what you saw, head on over to our page and subscribe, and you can get the full podcast. We do a show like this almost every week on tech and the future. Head on over there now and subscribe.